Hello, my sensational students. Welcome to Bloom and Grow Education. My name is Meredith. Today's lesson is suitable for Year 5 students who are preparing for the Gifted and Talented test. It's a writing lesson, and it's another one of my feedback lessons where I look at the students' writing sample and I help you understand what they've done well and areas that they can improve, which will help you in your own writing. The stimulus that we are looking at is this polar bear clinging to life on this little iceberg. And one of the things you will need to know to understand this story is that the student looked at this and saw a piece of broccoli, which is why it's called Never Eat Your Broccoli. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this lesson is because children need to be careful not to do that when you're doing a dream story, which you can do. You just have to make sure that you end your dream story properly. So in GAT and in NAPLAN, one of the things that you get marked down for is if you conclude your story by going, and it was all a dream, and they woke up, because it's not a proper conclusion or ending. It's something that you write when you have run out of time or you don't know how to conclude your story. It's not a proper ending. So this is a dream story, and she's almost got it right. And I'm going to read it through, I'll show you the things that she's done well, and then I'm just going to insert a paragraph to show you the thing that she's missing in there to make it a smooth dream story. So let's get started. It was Thursday afternoon, and it was a normal day for Paul the polar bear. He was on his route to go and get supper for his family, which is broccoli. The place where he finds broccoli is quite far from his home. In fact, it's 12 kilometers away from his house. Paul goes alone. No one helps him to bring the enormous piece of vegetable. Every 18 kilometers, Paul will have a quick break. He does not want to leave his father hangry. When he reaches there, Paul will do a little dance because he is happy that he finally reached it. Paul will drag the broccoli back home for his mother to cook. When Paul reached halfway, he took a break like normal, but this time he closed his eyes. Now Paul was in a snooze and having an amazing dream, Paul thought. In Paul's dream, he was doing exactly what he was doing right before he took his nap, going to get the broccoli and bring it home. And then something changed the whole dream. As Paul was bringing the broccoli home, he felt something under his feet. He quickly jumped up on top of the broccoli, and then there was a layer of thin ice over the broccoli. Paul was panting and his heart slowly crept up his throat. He was now stuck on the broccoli with ice. Then suddenly he woke up and was breathing heavily. He said to himself, "Only 10 minutes, then I am home." Broccoli was fine. Paul was good, and he pulled the family dinner back home. But when he reached the top of the hill, Paul heard a loud roar behind him. When Paul turned around, he saw a polar bear stuck on ice like the one in the dream. Okay, so forgiving that it's a little bit silly in that we've got a polar bear called Paul, and obviously polar bears don't eat broccoli, and they don't know how far 18 kilometers is. So there's a few elements here that you have to sort of forgive for the sake of accepting that it's a narrative and accepting that there are certain things that aren't real for us to be able to progress. So let's look at the things that she has done well. All right. So when I first read this, I read that as 12, but actually it's 72 because it's 4 times 18. So 18, 36, 64, 72 off the top of my head. And I, as a teacher, when my students are demonstrating excellent math skills, I enjoy that. Mostly what I like about it is a unique idea, and that's one of the things that we definitely want to be demonstrating in our stories. That's the thing that's allowing us to show the GAT markers that we are academically gifted. So if you are academically gifted, it means that you are different from other children, that you don't think the same as other children. that you are you can think critically and creatively and uniquely in a way that's different from everybody else. And you have to demonstrate that you're in the top 3% of all of the children in Western Australia. So having unique ideas is a really important part of that. So coming back to what I was saying earlier about how she's got this dream sequence. And so this part up the top here, that's all fine. So this is where the dream comes in here. When Paul reached halfway, he took a break like normal, but this time he closed his eyes. Now Paul was in a snooze and having an amazing dream, he thought. Paul's dream, he was doing exactly what he was doing before he took a nap, going to get broccoli and bring it home. But then something changed the whole dream. As Paul was bringing the broccoli home, he felt something under his feet. He quickly jumped up on top of the broccoli, and then there was a layer of ice over the broccoli. Paul was panting, and his heart slowly crept up his throat. He was now stuck on the broccoli on ice. So we need something in between this paragraph here and this paragraph here. Then suddenly he woke up. Okay, so it's okay that she's written suddenly he woke up, because it's not the end. If it had been he saw a polar bear stuck on a polar bear like the one in his dream, and then suddenly he woke up, that wouldn't be okay. But up here, she's still concluding the story. So it's okay that he's suddenly woken up. Only 10 minutes and then I am home. The broccoli was fine and he was going to he pulled it to his family. And when he reached the top of the hill, he heard a loud roar. When Paul turned around, he saw a polar bear stuck on the ice like the one in the dream. Now, the way that ends leaves me asking more questions. Why is there a polar bear stuck on the ice? What does this have to do with his dream? Like there's all these questions. It doesn't leave me feeling like the story has ended. It leaves me feeling like I have questions now. And you want your reader to feel that your story is concluded. So let's have a think about how we could fix this. So I think what we need to do is that him having to go and get this broccoli because he doesn't want his dad to be hangry is a bit of a blah problem. It's not really an exciting problem to be overcome. And then he goes into this dream, which is also really not a problem because he's just having a sleep. So really the exciting part of the story, the climatic part where you're like, oh, wow, what's going on? How are we going to solve this problem? Comes in those final two sentences where, well, why is there a polar bear floating on some broccoli ice? What does that have to do with your broccoli? And so that's the exciting part. Now, given that we have time problems with only having the 25 minutes of NAPLAN, only having the 25 minutes of GAT, we need to do a little bit of culling. So some of this stuff in here can go. So he has to go and get his enormous piece of broccoli so that his father doesn't get angry. This stuff here about him doing the little dance doesn't matter. We could basically just take out this whole paragraph. We could probably cull a lot of this as well. And we could maybe even write it so that some of this went up here. And that gives us like a third of our story back, a third of our time back to be able to have more writing time. And this is feedback that I often give students, is that they spend too much time in their build-up and don't get to their problem fast enough. Now, I know that lots of teachers teach having a build-up, and I teach that too when I've got lots of time. Even the 42 minutes of NAPLAN is enough time to put in a build-up if your build-up works. In GATE, you don't have enough time for all those fillers. You need to have a really simple story arc: introduction, problem, resolution, conclusion. And you almost need to get that problem written into your introduction. So I know that lots of teachers teach, you have an introduction, you have a problem, you have a resolution, but you don't have to have that. They're only teaching you that because they want to make sure you have those four things. You can stick your problem into your into your introduction as long as you make sure you have an introduction and you have a problem. So we want to combine all of that stuff down so that we've got lots of room to be able to get into the actual problem, which is what is revealed in here. So now this part here is the start of our introduction. I know I've just said don't do a build up, but there's a build up into the introduction. It's okay. She needs to establish that he is having this nap and that it's this weird dream thing that's going on. So she needs to write it a little bit more succinctly so she's got enough time, because down here, this is our problem. Sorry, that's like the worst P I've ever done. So when Paul turns around, he sees this polar bear stuck on ice like the one in the dream. Okay, so now my question is, so what? What is your polar bear? What is Paul going to do about this polar bear on the ice? And we don't want to do something lame like he can go and rescue the polar bear with his broccoli. Maybe what he needs to do is go back into his dream and solve the polar bear problem from within the dream sequence. So let's have a little think about how that could go. Okay, so brethren means, I guess it's sort of a root word of brother. It just means like fellow polar bear. And I wanted to bring in like a word like mystified, like, so instead of saying was curious or was surprised, bringing in mystified is a better word. Stranded rather than stuck, brethren rather than polar bear. I was going to write, how is he going to help him? But I've already said help here. So I've thought, what's another word for help? All right, he lay down and slowly drifted into dreamland and back onto the iceberg in the ocean. There was the other creature, a mirror to him floating in the giant abyss of the water. So I've already said ocean here, so I've said water here. What to do now? Then suddenly, the other polar bear leapt off his iceberg and onto Paul's. He crashed into him and they both went tumbling into the icy water. Then, with the shock of the chill, so I didn't want to say icy again. The chill might not be the best word, but I don't really have enough time to be stuffing about trying to find the perfect word. If the perfect word comes into my head in about 2 seconds, then great, write it down. Otherwise, just get on with it. Come back and fix those things up later. Paul awoke on the ground with another polar bear grinning madly at him. Now, I'm not sure about this word madly, because madly could be madly like angry, madly like crazily, or madly goofily. So I'm going to take that out, maybe cheerfully. All right. Thanks, he said, holding out a paw, not a hand, a paw, to pull Paul up to stand beside his broccoli. Is that dinner? And that's just a fun way to end it, because it hooks us back to that broccoli that was the whole point of the story all along. So the reason why I chose to end it to solve the problem in that way is because I didn't want to do something lame like he held out a branch, or he held out a broccoli, or he splashed until it floated away. I was trying to think of something that was a bit more unique, and I think also when he jumps off and he leaps and he crashes into him, it's a moment of excitement. But I also, given that it's a little bit of a nonsensical story, and that we've got a polar bear called Paul and he's getting broccoli and he's having this weird dream sequence, we can probably continue along that thought process of having the dream fixed and him magically appear next to him. It probably flows okay to do that. And otherwise I think that we're going to end up with a lame resolution. And we need to get the story resolved and concluded quickly. We don't have enough time to really do it any other way. So I was able to resolve that in just a couple of sentences. Okay, that brings me to the end of my lesson. I hope that helps you to have an understanding of how to manage those dream stories. So you can do them, you just can't end it with, and it was all a dream. Okay, that brings me to the end of the lesson, as I said. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'd really appreciate it if you could please thank me in return by liking this video and subscribing to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you at the next lesson.